everybody, welcome to today's stream. Hope you're all doing good today on this fine Saturday. It's the weekend. So we cast up some more of those epoxy floor chips, this time neon, and we have some results. I am pretty stoked about these things. So we did some neon orange with black dyed resin, and we did some super crazy, just a mix of all the neon colors. Whoa, this looks like Fiesta in a pen blank. So let me get the overhead view going so you can see a little bit closer up of these things. Pretty sweet. I am really happy with this. Is what I was hoping for, where you'd see some specks of orange kind of poking through with that black. They kind of look a little bit Halloween-y. Halloween-y, that's a word, I think. And then here are these things. I'm telling you, this is like, oh man, Fiesta right there. Fiesta in a pen. Pretty awesome. I am super stoked about these things. Let's get even closer here a little bit. Ooh. All right, so I was so excited about this. I decided we need to turn one of each. So we're going to do a couple of Sierra pens. We're going to do 2 pen blanks, and just they're a single blank each. A couple little notes real quick before we begin. So number one, if you want to make some of these things, if you want to pick up some of these neon or fluorescent or whatever epoxy floor chips, there's a link down in the description below to where I got them on Amazon. So that's number one. Number two, there is a sale, 20% off on my glitters, the Starlight glitters. I don't have a link to give you to put in the chat, but there is one down in the description below. And so when you check out, just make sure to enter the code GLITTERMOM, GLITTERMOM. I'm going to type that so you can copy and paste it. GLITTERMOM, just so nobody gets that wrong. And that sale is going to end like today, tomorrow, like at the end, like midnight or so tomorrow night. So make sure to, if you need to pick up some Starlight glitter, get over there, pick it up, 20% off. That's a pretty good deal. One other little quick note before we begin. Next week's streams I'm not going to be doing. We're going to cancel those because I need to get some videos done, and there's just not enough time. I'm running around with my head cut off kind of thing. So I'm going to try and take Wednesday and Saturday, work on some videos. I want to try and get 2 of them at least shot. I have a lot of things that I need to do for resin 3D printing. I've been on kind of a little bit of a hold on 3D printing stuff because I'm kind of waiting to get together with Nikki, who I'm hoping is going to be able to do 3D modeling for me. So we should have more models and things that we can print in the files coming soon. I'm hoping that we can work together. If that doesn't work out for some reason, then I'm just going to Fiverr it, and I'm going to find someone to model things for me that we can kind of work together and make some of these things. Realistically, I'd like to make possibly like 1 a month type thing. There's a lot of like themed things that I want to make prints for. And I don't know, just all kinds of fun things that you can do with the resin 3D printers, or just any 3D printer. And I want to get some models made so we can kind of make some cool pens. So that's coming down the road, but you know, I have a lot of videos to do. I think what I'm going to do, I found a really good way to quickly clean the alcohol that you use to wash the prints off. So I want to do a video on how to wash prints. I'm going to do a separate video on how to quickly clean the alcohol. It's a super simple, it's going to be like a 2-minute video. It's just quick. Here's how I do it. It's super fast. Here's, you know, what I use kind of thing. And so a couple other things. So I'm going to try and work on knocking some of those out. And then I have a couple other video ideas that I want to do. So next week's streams are going to be canceled because I'm going to try and get some cool videos made for you guys. Whew, I feel like I'm talking fast. So is there anything else? I don't think so. I don't know. There's going to be a video going up tomorrow. It's going to be a live stream replay of the Lifesaver thing. So it's like the shortened video. So make sure to check that out. Let me know how you like it. And I think that's it. So who was here first? Mike McEwen was here first, and Gene. Nice. Larry's here. How's it going? Ah, the Twisters have left. That's good. I think the wind came here because it's been nuts the last couple days. Kim's here. How's it going? And Mark. Nice. Lee. And onomatopoeia. Let's see here. Who else is here? And Eric's here. Sweet. Okay, so we got some people. We got things rolling. Oh, one thing that I wanted to mention about cutting these. So I did my experiment cutting these things, I told you that I found these to be fairly abrasive using my standard blades. And with the triple chip grind blade that I have on there, it's a Freud. It's a 72 tooth. I don't like that particularly. You don't need that. But it seemed like, and again, I'm not making any conclusions yet because I still have a lot of blanks to cut and testing to do with these blades, but it seemed like it handled cutting this stuff way better. It didn't really, like, the first time, it just seemed like, and I wasn't even cutting bricks, cutting, you know, a bunch of blanks out of bricks, which that's going to be 4 cuts per blank, basically. That's a lot of cuts per brick of blanks. I was just kind of shaving off the sides and stuff like that on the singles that we poured them in the singles blank. And that first time, I mean, it was pretty noticeable. Like once I was done with that, it was fairly, it was dull. And with this thing, it didn't seem to be dulled nearly as quick. It's tough to tell because the 72 tooth blade makes it slow to push through the blade in the first place. And they also have a 0 degree hook angle, which I do believe also may kind of slow down how it feels when you're cutting, when you're pushing something through the blade. So it's tough to tell because it is slower already, and I'm just trying to, that's why I'm not making any conclusions yet, but it did seem to be a little bit better, which I like because I literally just stay away from certain materials because I am just absolutely not going to waste a blade or two trying to cut out blanks a lot of times. But if I can get a blade that can handle this stuff and cut, you know, without just dulling on like the first 5 cuts, basically, I'm going to be pretty excited. So anyway, slow down and breathe. I know there's so much stuff going on. I haven't even had any coffee today. So anyway, guys, that's the scoop a little bit. Like I said, I still, like I said, I don't know that I would switch to these triple chip grind blades to cut everything. You know, and one thing that I want to make very clear, for most people, you just go buy a standard blade. It's going to cut resin fine. Where this triple chip grind thing, you know, why I'm looking at different blades, it only has to do with these super abrasive materials. These vinyl chips or whatever is in these things are, you know, within a few cuts, my blade is pretty much dull, and I got to go get it. I got to switch it out really to make it safe, to safely be able to use that table saw. Pine cones can be like that. I found the rosebuds, just dried rosebuds. They're not stabilized. There's nothing going on, but they would dull my blade pretty quick. I'm trying to think of other materials. I said pine cones. Like I said, certain stabilized materials. When I used to make sagebrush blanks, oh my God, those things, they were done. Like that blade was toast, and I would be just forcing the blanks through the blade. And it's just because sagebrush is pretty abrasive. Glow in the dark blanks, that stuff is super abrasive. It's basically like having sand in your blanks. Now, I don't know that seashells or something like that those are getting to the point where they are just really, really hard materials. I don't know how well that triple chip grind blade is going to do against that, something like that, where it's like it's murder on any blade. But what I want is to find a solution for these things that are super abrasive that I can switch the blade out and use. Because what I found is some of these blades can be pretty expensive. Especially the Forest. I mean, that thing's like $180, which would be worth it for me if it's something that will last through, you know, I switch it out, cut some abrasive materials, and then put it away. That might not be a bad way to go. But for, like I said, for normal people that are not like trying to produce a bunch of blanks, cut out a bunch of blanks out of a brick and make them look good, just put a standard blade on your table saw, or just use a bandsaw blade. And you're going to be fine. You know, you don't need to go out and get special equipment. However, if you do find that you're cutting blanks that are abrasive, that's why I'm doing this test, because, you know, for me, I want to find something that's going to help fix that issue, or at least get me through it without it, one, being kind of what ends up happening is, if I have to cut 6 blanks out of a brick, right, and the blade dulls halfway through, technically I should replace the blade. But I mean, there's been some materials where I could have gone through 5 blades. And what I do is I just continue through because I'm not going to waste another blade, basically that needs to get sharpened. And so it creates a potentially dangerous situation because you're not really willing halfway through to switch your blade out. It's just stupid, I think for most people, if you have like a blank that's going to be abrasive, I would maybe just recommend going with the bandsaw because, the blade's going to be pretty cheap. You also have a smaller kerf, and I think you can get through it safer. And also, I think it's just going to be a cheaper thing, overall. So if that's the case, then that's what I would probably recommend for most people. If you're using a table saw for just resin blanks, then just use your standard, 40 tooth combo blade. That's what I use. So anyway, laminates and these are basically kind of the same thing. There's all these different, there's lots of different, I haven't tried one of those, but I don't know that it's going to be any different. I think I've looked at like the tooth geometries and all that kind of stuff, and they're pretty much the same thing. I think that the better choice really is going for something that's made for cutting solid surface countertops. That's what I'm using. I think that, there's a couple things going for you. One, it's the same type of material and the same type of abrasiveness that I'm trying to get through. Aluminum's not necessarily abrasive in the same way as like these things are. And a lot of times what those, laminates and aluminum, what the problem is with that is you're trying to get a clean cut. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but for me, I think the smart way to go, I'm not going to buy 10 or 20 different blades to try all this stuff out. I'm going to go for these things. And so far, like I said, I found that the ones that I've used, which the two that I have a Freud and an Amana. I haven't even tried the Amana yet. I've gotten pretty good results with the Freud. My only drawback to these blades is they're 72 teeth, and that's what most of these countertop material blades, the solid surface blades are. And again, they're trying to get a very smooth cut with that. Those blades are not particularly expensive. They were like 100 or 110, that's how much my normal blades cost. The Tenru blades. And I highly recommend, like if you're trying to get a good cut, then, buy a good blade. Don't just buy a $15 blade and expect on a table saw to get a good surface. At that point, you're going to get a surface that's going to be, it's going to be very similar in many cases to just cutting on a bandsaw. So you may as well just do that because you can probably go further. Like bandsaws are easier in that case. But anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's go turn a blank. I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit of an update. But down the road, once I get the 40 tooth triple chip grind blade from Forest, I want to see how that does because I think it's going to make my life easier. And again, the tough thing is I have very specific reasons for doing this and ways that I work that may not really may not be the same as everybody else. But if you're trying to cut a bunch of blanks up and you got abrasive materials, that's what I'm hoping I'll find out some information about this stuff. Okay, so let's see here. Where are we at? We're gonna go over to this thing and go over here. The one that's super expensive is the Forest. That was a really expensive blade. I want to see what this black and orange one looks like first. Let's go with that one. But like I said, you can find fairly reasonably priced. And I mean, I'm not saying that these are cheap blades, but they're not $200 blades. That's an expensive blade. $100, that's just a quality blade, in my eyes. And I think it's worth buying a quality blade because they cut a lot better, and they're going to last longer. For any kind of cutting, a better quality blade is going to be a better option. The other thing is they just vibrate less and all that kind of stuff. Now, one thing though is if your table saw vibrates, like you have just one of those contractor, like a super cheap table saw that's like the whole arbor vibrates and stuff, then I don't care what blade you put on it, it's not going to cut particularly well. And at that point, you may want to kind of rethink what your decision about which blade you're buying and how much it costs, because if you can't get good quality because the saw is limiting you, then what's the point, right? But if you have a reasonably, you know, stable saw where it's not really vibrating a whole lot, then a good blade is going to make a huge difference compared on cut quality. And the other thing is, for most people, you're not like, I need to show people these blanks. Like, if you're just making a blank here and there for yourself, then who cares what it looks like on the outside? But, you know, I'm doing a show here, and if this thing was all cut up and you know, like the surface that you get on a bandsaw, you wouldn't even be able to tell what's going on with this stuff. And especially for trying to sell blanks, it makes it kind of tough. And I like to have my products look reasonable, so when you get the pen blank, you can actually see what's happening. So I'm a little bit different than the average, you know, someone that just turns a few pens. You don't necessarily need to worry about half of this stuff if you're making a pen here and there, you know, and you know, even if you're selling pens, I mean, I don't know that the blank needs to look pretty. You need the pen to look pretty, right? Which you'll get that at the end. All right, so I'm going to turn the Stratus air filter on. Get that thing rolling so we got some air filtration. I'm going to turn the dust collector on, maybe. There it goes. All right, so we are set up with our between center stuff. I got links down in the description to most of all this stuff for the setup. Get some safety glasses on. These are not the Freuds you're looking for. That's a good one. I love it. Oh, it's going the wrong way. Okay, let's turn this up. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't do that, and I mean, frankly, it would be a lot. Don't cut up or, like, you know, whatever, sell blanks that are all scratched up and all that stuff. And I don't know. It's tough for me. Like, if I got a blank, I'm kind of torn. Like, for me, like, your job buying my blank is to turn it and make it look pretty, not my job, right? You're gonna have to cut into it and do all this stuff, but. At the same time, like, it's sometimes tough if you can't really see what's going on, you know, like, before you, like, to lay out the blank to find out where you want, you know, things to be. It's just so much nicer if you can actually see what's going on, you know? So, I don't know. It's just, I like selling nice looking blanks. And I'm not saying they're like smooth. like perfect or anything like that. Just not just like, I can't stand the way blanks look after a bandsaw cut. I mean, they're horrible looking, you know. All right, let's stop it and get you guys a kind of a closer up view. Stop wiggling. I think that looks pretty cool. Digging it. I'm digging it a lot, and I think it's gonna pop out even more, like because it doesn't look particularly bright, you know. It's kind of like neon fluorescent. They're not particularly bright right now, but I'm hoping that when we polish it all up, it's gonna really pop out. Missing some questions. So I'll answer your question about that, Larry, in a second. And so, yeah, Welsh Piper, yeah. Generally, I'm going to go as fast as possible on a pen blank because the diameter is really small, so you generally get a better cut. It's kind of tough because you got the whole thing about how fast you should turn. There's feed rates, and there's kind of a sweet spot, and you know, if you're going too slow, then it's going to be a really bumpy and horrible kind of, you know, surface that you're leaving. So the faster you go, the more revolutions you get, and generally the smoother the cut's going to be, and that goes across the board for anything. However, when you get kind of larger turnings, I don't think, you know, one, there's a safety concern. You know, if you're turning a giant bull or something like that, there's a safety concern. That outside rim is going to be traveling a lot faster, but you get a better cut going a little slower as things get larger in diameter on the lathe. But for pens, I mean, most people's lathes, you can just max it out and it's going to be the best, you know, that you can get. The one exception that I would maybe say is the Nova Galaxy and some of the other ones. They go up to like 5,000 RPMs. I don't really think that's necessary. Mine goes to 3,500, 3,000 to 4,000 is a good range, I think, for pen blanks. And you can also kind of, you know, change that feed rate by, you don't want to be moving the tool super fast either. You know, so you got to kind of, you'll find where the shavings are coming off nicely and everything's good. It's not coming off in like dust. If you see like dust part, like it's all just a crust of dust coming off of there, then I would maybe try slowing it down or slowing how fast you move the tool. But you can see, you know, like shavings are coming off. You know, I'm making shavings, and it's not like a big dust cloud. I'm not like pulverizing it, it's shavings. That's what you want. Now, let's go back to Larry's question. So, the thing is, what I found, and I'm going to turn off the dust collector here for a second. because I feel like I'm yelling at you. I want to, oh, I pulled my mic off. Pulled the microphone off my shirt. That's why I don't like the wire hanging out in the front. I'm going to show you, hopefully, I'm going to show you what the difference is with these blades and what my theory is as to what the point is of all this blade talk. Okay, so a standard combination blade, let's see if I can get this thing lined up, is going to have an alternating tooth bevel. You can see that each tooth, I don't know if you can see this very well, but each tooth is angled a different way. All right, so this one's angled that way, the one in front of it's angled this way. All right, that's called an alternating tooth bevel. And I think the problem is, because this is carbide, and that's, you know, what we're turning with. Now there's different grades of carbide, and there's all kinds of stuff going on here, but for me, I believe that the problem is the geometry on these blades. Because once that tip, once you've dulled the tip, which is very easy to do on certain more abrasive materials, then your blade is kind of toast, even though the rest of the tooth is not particularly, you know, toast, let's say. I think that once you kill those like ears, then you're kind of hosed. And so there's a different type of geometry that you can get on a blade called triple chip grind, and which means, I don't know if this camera is going to pick this up very well, but they don't have those corners. There's no points on the ends. They're kind of cut on angles, and then you have one that's more like a chisel behind that's flat. And so my guess is, because these blades are made to cut Corian countertops or solid surface materials, which if you've ever tried to cut Corian with a combination tooth normal blade, that stuff is super abrasive. But it's made to cut countertops, and so I was like, well, if it can handle a countertop, I mean, pen blanks shouldn't be too much of a problem. And so I think that's what the deal is. It's the geometry that it's very easy to dull that point, and then once that happens, it's kind of done. Whereas, like, you know, these carbide teeth or carbide cutters and stuff, it just turning doesn't. I don't know, for some reason it's not exactly the same thing. Now, I will say though, something like a glow powder blank, that's going to dull your carbide tip a lot faster than just, you know, resin type thing. So these still dull. I mean, it's not like I swap my carbide. I move it and then swap them out fairly quickly in some cases when I'm turning abrasive materials. But, you know, I've been using this for a long time and it's still cutting well. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on carbide. I'm just I'm making guesses about a few things here. But like I said, so far, the testing that I've done with that triple chip grind blade seems to indicate that it lasts longer than just my standard blades that I've been using. And I tried a number of standard combination blades when I first got into this stuff, when I was first, you know, kind of more, not mass producing, but, you know, making a lot of blanks and selling them. And the Tenru gold metal blades that I use, those seem to last the longest for just a standard blade. It even beat out Forest Woodworker 2s, which is what I used when I was just a woodworker. So anyway. All right, so chainsaw tooth. Yeah, kinda. I don't exactly know if that's it, Larry. I'm not sure if round versus square is exactly. It's just, I don't know how. Well, I don't know enough. I don't know anything about chainsaws, but it's not so much that this is round. If that's what you're trying to say, it's a little bit of a different thing. It's more that it's just a point, because I think a little bit better, like if I was to use, this is a standard carbide cutter, and it's got a super sharp point on the end, that is going to dull really fast. And if that's what you use to cut on an abrasive blank, that thing's going to dull super fast, compared to, you know, something that's like this. You're just not exposing it to like a super sharp point. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't exactly know what's going on. That's my guess. That's my assumption as to why things are the way they are. Here's another thing that will also just flat out kill any blade, any material, whether it's steel, carbide. If you get it really hot, it's going to kill the edge. And so that may, friction may actually be a little bit of that may be the underlying reason why once you dull that sharp tip, then it starts heating up, and then it just kind of ends up drawing that heat down, across the rest of that tooth, or teeth on the saw blade, and it just kind of ends up making it a nightmare. Kind of a domino effect. Alright, I think that's good. Let's start sanding this guy up. I'm going to start at 240 grit. Did you guys see Jamie Page did his first resin casting today on the Saturday morning cartoons? He's gonna be hooked. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the live part of that. Yeah, he did great. I knew he would, though. He's been watching everybody else do it for a while. He had Jake on his side, and Jamie just knows what he's doing anyway with stuff. He's a good craftsman. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Oh, there's a little bit of an air pocket. We're gonna cover this little tiny air pinhole right there. We're gonna cover that with the with the clip. Otherwise, what I would do is just fill it with CA glue otherwise, but we can get away with just acting like it's not there. All right, so I'm gonna wipe it off with some denatured alcohol real quick, just to clean any dust and also like abrasive particles from the sandpaper. We're gonna move on to 400 grit here. Soccer game. All right, well, thanks for stopping by, Gene. Have fun at the game. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how many people are buying those things. Thing is, you just don't really need that many for pen turning anyway, though. So they may not really even notice. I mean, if you're comparing it, well, I don't know how much you actually need for an epoxy floor, because it's not like you're filling the whole. It's a pretty thin layer of them, so I don't know. I'm definitely not the first person to come up with this. I didn't even realize Chad's been making and selling these things at Turner's Warehouse for I don't know how long, for a while. And I know other people have been making pen blanks and stuff out of them. I really want to get a bunch of them and make like a bowl, like a hybrid bowl or something like that. That would be pretty sweet. Okay, I think that's probably good. Do another wipe with denatured alcohol here. Pull it off. Denatured alcohol. And we'll do a little bit of wet sanding and turn these loud filters and dust collectors off now. Whew. Much nicer. I should probably get new water, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go and refresh the water here real quick. It's looking kind of gross. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me, so I guess I'll wait and ask later, but I don't know what the range is on this mic. So has anybody made any Mother's Day projects this year? I was kind of curious. That's happening tomorrow. So if you didn't make one yet, you better get in the shop. I'm gonna spill this water, trying to hold the water, and here we go. There we go. And like that. Just like this. Now we're ready. Let's see here. Lelia, watching the horse race, Kentucky Derby. Is that on right now? I heard that was on. Toothpick containers. That'd be cool. Yeah. You can hear me? I wasn't sure. My old microphone that I used to use, that thing has a pretty good range. This one does too, I think. Problem is when you start going behind walls and different stuff, that's when you're like, I don't know. And especially if you're not facing the receiver, I don't know. A pen and letter opener, nice. That's cool. So you could, if you wanted to, you could put a CA finish on top of this. You don't need to. It will be maybe a little bit more like kind of glossy, or just at least an even, possibly more even sheen. The other thing is there may be a little bit of a kind of a surface texture that you can kind of feel if you don't put a finish on top of this stuff. So it's up to you. You can do it whichever way you want, but you know, you don't need to put a CA finish on this stuff. It'll polish up fine. Good enough. Races before the Derby. Yeah, horse racing's cool. My grandma actually used to own some horse races, or racing horses. So we'd go down to the track in Southern California. It's always fun. Fun day at the track. I had a pretty sweet deal going, and this was when I was really young, but I had a sweet deal going. She would let me bet on horses, and so I didn't have to put the money up, but for the bet, but I got if I won, I got all the winnings. That's the way to gamble right there. Don't even need to put up the money for the bet. We went to I think it was the Belmont Stakes. Is that in New York? There's like, there's like the Triple Crown thing. There's like the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont Stakes, and there's something else. We actually went to one of them. I think it was in New York one time. That was kind of neat. All right, that ought to be good enough. Well, I use Zona. Micro mesh. So here's a couple things. One, I don't like the pads. Number one, for the micro mesh, the thick things. I can't feel how much pressure I'm applying with those. So that's one big thing that I don't really like about them. But micro mesh does make paper like this also. My problem was with those, and that's what I started using first because I didn't know about this Zona stuff. The problem is it's all different shades of gray. Like, you have no clue what, like, you better mark it kind of thing. And so, and there's like, I don't know, what do they have, like 9 different grits or something like that? And it just seems so, like, Zona's got, I think, what is it, a 5 grit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grits, and I think Micromesh had like 9, and you get the same exact results with Zona. So for me, I'd rather use if I was gonna polish up all the way with that stuff, I'd rather just go with Zona in the first place. Second off, this stuff's cheaper. Third, it's color coded with meaningful colors that you can actually see. And for me, I typically only use the first 2 or 3 grits anyway, and you can just buy packs, 8.5 by 11 sheets of like 10, packs of 10 or however many, and then I just cut it into smaller sheets. So for me, I mean, the thing is, they do the same thing. I don't know that one is better at doing its job than the other. They at least do exactly the same thing, but for me, I pick Zona. I think it kind of makes more sense overall for me. But I think some people do like the pad things, especially like if you're used to those, then just keep using them. There's no reason to switch. There would be no advantage necessarily, but again, it may be a little bit cheaper to get Zona. I don't know what the prices are at this point, but for all the other reasons, I prefer going with Zona now. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Preakness. Oh yeah. I don't think that's what I think we went to the Belmont Stakes. Well, okay, so which one's in New York, I guess? Is it the Preakness? Scott's doing planter boxes. That's cool. Yeah, speaking of horse races, I haven't been to the horse races for so long. I don't know when the last time was. I'll have to do that sometime next time we're in California. There's lots of tracks there. Okay, so I think we're ready for some magic juice. So I'll give you guys kind of a close-up of this, how it is right now. Try and get this thing to focus on it. Maybe if we get like this. There we go. So it's looking pretty good. A little bit glossy. So like I said, I just used the first two grits. The green is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 750 grit. So we did 240, 400 with sandpaper with the Abranet, and then 750 is the green, and then I think the gray is somewhere around 1150 or 1200 or something like that, somewhere between 1,000 and 1200. So we're up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 1200. It's looking, you know, it's kind of like a dull shiny, kind of a matte finish, I would say. And then the Magic Juice polish is just a liquid polish that I've come to really like. I like that stuff. So it's a 6 steps, 6 different polishes, and it goes pretty quickly. There's lots of different polish setups that you could use, and each kind of requires slightly different preparation, I think. I think they recommend going somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere between like 800, like sanding up to 800 to 2,000 grit, somewhere in there. So I go to about 1,200, which is pretty good. I could maybe go a little higher, but like the instructions say they recommend wet sanding up to 2,000 grit. I think that's unnecessary, kind of, though. I've been getting pretty good results just going up to that gray zona. And so number one, you just put a dime size or whatever blob. I'm going to get my lathe going around 1,500, 1,800, somewhere in that neighborhood. And you just wipe it on and keep on moderate pressure, medium or moderate. Just keep going until you don't feel any kind of drag. It's kind of cleaned off a little bit. And I just use a fresh area to kind of wipe off any residue and then move on to the next step. So it's pretty easy. If you've already got a buffing setup, that works pretty well already. Because I used to buff. I used to use the Beal thing for pens. But I find this to be faster, and I get a little bit of a shinier gloss, honestly. But I think that if you already have a buffing setup and don't want to mess around with switching, finding a new way of doing things, what I would recommend is if you were doing it like me, where white diamond was your highest, buffing that you did, you might want to try just grabbing some sort of a car polish. Grab a super soft buffing wheel if you wanted to. Grab some car polish and like kind of a final step or a scratch remover kind of car polish, something that's at the higher end, and you might get a little bit glossier shine if you don't want to switch to these things. But these things work great, and you don't have to take it off the lathe. That's something that I kind of like. Just leave it in place, do your polishing, and So far I've been getting pretty good results. And it also is a little bit forgiving. Like if you miss a scratch or two here and there, I mean, if you really, really look, you could see it, but I'm finding that it actually kind of hides. You know, you can kind of get away with it. Get away with a couple things. It's just not obvious. But you might have missed a scratch here and there. Sometimes those things can be elusive, you know. Oh, I've been missing. Sorry, I've been keeping my eye on the chat here. I want to see your grandson. First time in 8 months. Nice. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. To be honest, I didn't really use micro mesh anyway. I use buffing wheels. So I didn't really use. I didn't like that stuff that much in the first place. Like I said, I really didn't like those pads. So I kind of messed around with different ways of doing things for a while. I'm trying to think now. I mean, I guess I used the micro mesh paper when I found that, but I could not stand the fact that there was like, they were all just shades of gray, every one of them. And then I found the Zona paper and switched. So I guess that's what I was using, like right before Zona. And I found, I don't know if one lasts longer than the other. I couldn't. I didn't really pay that much. I mean, it definitely doesn't last less, you know, kind of thing. Like I knew that for sure. It was about similar. Maybe it could have lasted a little longer, but I didn't really. That wasn't the point. I was just happy that there was something that had green, gray, blue to differentiate the grits. That was my main reason for switching. But they go to the same grit level, right? So there's only 6 grits and you get to the same point. So to me, I'm like, okay, and it works fine. You know, the 6 grits is all you need to get to the same point. Work the same, so give me the one that has less steps. Kinda, you know? That was my rationale. Okay, so let's get you guys, we're gonna get you guys set up for the big reveal. Let me stop this thing. Okay. Ooh, look at that. It's kind of shiny. Let's see if I can get you guys kind of like right over it. It might be a little bit better. Well, that light is just killing everything. There we go. Now, I got a little bit of that polish in that little pinhole. I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of air to get that out of there and then wipe it off. Might have a few other little pinholes here and there. So you might actually, might not be a bad idea to go with a CA finish on top, because you definitely can feel a little bit of a texture, and you might have a few little of these pinholes here and there. And that, you know, CA finish will plug any pinholes and give you that smooth surface. It'll make it a little bit shinier too. But man, look at that. That's pretty shiny. So you can see those. There's some. That's the one drawback to polishes, is it'll kind of lodge itself in the blank. Now let's see if we can use a little bit of water. Might have to go back and do, I don't know. Let's see what happens if we hit this with a little bit of water. That might kind of take out some of that polish. Might kind of dull it a little bit too, but Yeah, not much I can do. I could pick it out with a pick kind of thing. But yeah, so you may wanna go with CA glue for finish, because there's all these little speckles here and there. But if you just don't look at those parts, this turned out pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to just set this aside. We're going to do a CA finish on the next one. See how that goes, because I don't think I did a CA finish on the first paint chip blank that we did. We'll get an idea of what that's all about. All right, so let me. Belmont is in. Okay, so that's what we went to. Finally, yeah, ShamWow. I know. I think we found those. We saw them in like a store, and I was like, oh, I got to get some of those. That's hilarious. All right, so we're going with Funfetti. I don't know what to call this blank. Funfetti or Fiesta pen. Fiesta in a pen. The triple chip grind blades, they're a 0 degree, which is what most of those are. I tried to look around at a lot of different ones. Yeah, this one's, yeah, I think they're both 0 degree, and I want to say that the Forest, so I'm waiting on a 40 tooth. So the two that I could easily find were a 72 tooth, which I don't need. You know, just a table saw cut is good enough on pen blanks for me. You know, like we were talking about, I want a fairly decent surface like this, and all you need is just a decent blade on a table saw, and that'll give you a decent enough surface compared to like a bandsaw blade, cut surface. Now you could get a decent bandsaw surface if your bandsaw is well tuned, you have a good high tooth count blade on your bandsaw. You can get much better results than I do, but number one, my bandsaw is a piece of junk, and I just refuse to I'm waiting for it to just die so that I can buy a new one, basically. But you can get things set up. Plus, there's no way to really tune it to the point where it's going to be really good, because it has certain things wrong with it. But for me, it's much faster to cut on a table saw, and so that's the thing. So I don't really care for these 72 tooth blades personally. I'd rather whatever. So the only one that I could find that had a triple chip grind like this and all these other things, where you could select a different tooth count, was from Forest. However, the problem with that is it's expensive. It's like a $60 premium. So I don't know if that's really going to be worth it for most people. It would be worth it for me if this thing does last significantly longer and I can cut faster. So what happens is 72 teeth means that you're cutting slower. So it takes me, I would say, probably twice as long to cut a blank with this 72 tooth blade compared to my 40 tooth. So anyway, I don't know. I'm geeking out on this stuff because I'm just hoping that it's a better solution. I can find a better solution. Okay, so McGuire, yeah, I got a McGuire. So McGuire's has like I have like every polish on the planet. I found that the 105 Ultra Cut, I got pretty good results with that, and I was using that with a super, I forget what like a string buffing wheel, and I got that somewhere on, I don't have like links or anything, but you can find, I think it's called a string buff. And I think you can maybe even get one from Beal, possibly. So anyway, I was getting pretty good results doing that on certain projects. But I know a lot of people use the Plastex. That stuff works pretty good, I guess, for some people. I like I said, I found that the 105 worked the best, and that's not even really a super high polish, but you know, Plastex works. A lot of people really love that. Novus plastic polish. I mean, a lot of people like that. There's the 2020. I have all of them. Hut Ultra Gloss. So there's lots of different options out there, and I think that most of them will work fine if you want that like kind of final thing. I don't know. Some people swear that you can just sand up to like some grit and then just use one of those. I never really found that to be the case. But I also kind of gave up on those types of plastic polishes. I tried those early on, and the one thing is I have actually gotten better at like sanding and not leaving scratches in from the sanding marks, or you know, leaving scratches from the sanding grits. So I don't know, it would probably be worth trying again sometime with some of those other ones and just seeing how they work. But you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and I'm kind of like, this works, this magic juice stuff works. So buffing worked fine for years too, so it's kind of tough to like keep trying different things when you got things that work. All right, so we got everything going here. Let's get this thing going faster. Yeah, so you guys are talking about, yeah, you don't need, well, okay, so you do not need to put CA, like a protective finish on resin, okay? So there's different reasons to apply a CA finish. Some people find that CA finishes are easier to polish, or to, like, they'll get a more of a gloss with CA glue. But typically what you're doing is either protecting something underneath. So like one of the blanks that I've made in the past is a candy cane blank. And in that case, if it gets wet at all, it's going to melt the candy cane. So you need to protect it with something. So in that case, you know, CA finish will cover and protect that from, you know, damage. The other thing is, like they were saying, if you have two different surfaces, so like a hybrid blank, do I have a hybrid blank anywhere? Yeah, I do. So on a half wood and half resin blank like this, you're never going to get the wood polished to the same gloss, same sheen as the resin. So putting a CA finish on is going to give you an even sheen, even gloss across the entire blank. So, but in this case, yeah, pinholes and things like that, if you need to fill stuff, that's a good reason to put a CA finish on too. I think you guys kind of already talked about all those things, but I thought I'd add my 2 cents. I think I like Funfetti, the name of these. Dominic's here. What's up, man? Yeah, there's a lot of like little nuanced random random things for pin turning. In general, I mean, you know, you can get good results doing whatever, but over the years you kind of learn a couple different things, and I'm always happy to kind of share some of my thoughts. And I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I do like to know, you know, in general, how to get the best results on things. Partly because, you know, I sell pen blanks, and so if I don't know how to get good results with my own blanks, then how are my customers gonna? Mardi Gras. Yeah, it's kind of Mardi Gras. Getting pretty close here. Pull you guys around here. Oh man. Yes. I mean, if that ain't cool, I don't know what is. Wow. Still got a little bit to take off on this end. Okay. Back to our sanding here. 240 grit again. I know, everybody knows the answer. I only know certain things. But, you know, it's good. I mean, a lot of these questions come up, especially for like new pen turners and stuff. You know, that's the whole point, you know, that people that have heard it before can share that, you know, share that information. I'm not entirely certain what craft foam is, but I get pretty good results just using a paper towel. Where I don't get, if I don't use paper towels, like if I'm trying to fill a bunch of gaps and stuff, then I'll just use a glove. Found that to be pretty good. The one that I never really liked, and I did try, is, you know, people use like the little baggies that your pen parts come in. I didn't get that one. That always was a terrible result for me. It's so funny, CA, I don't know, I tried a bunch of different ways to get CA finishes to work. It took me probably, I would say, like 2 or 3 years to really find a way to do it and get consistently good results. Part of my problem though also was the lathe. Well, I was using mandrels that like wobbled, so you're never gonna get a, like, I would always sand through parts of it, and so it was like a really tedious and horrible thing. Once I switched to the between centers, you know, the TBC bushings, then magically I could apply CA finishes with no problems because the blank was running true. I would have to put on so much CA finish to build up enough of a surface so that I wouldn't sand through. It's crazy. Have fun, Mike. Thanks for joining the fun, man. All right, so this time we're going to put a CA finish on, and so I'll show you how I do it. And again, definitely not. There's like 1,000 different ways to do it. The big thing with CA finishes is you just need to figure out some method, and that may also, well, for me, it also included, you know, like a technique, as well as it matters which CA glue I'm using as well. But the secret is you just need to figure out a way to, however you can apply it and get it on as smooth as possible. That's the key, you know, and then just put on as many coats as you want. But you need to get it on there smooth. If it's this lumpy, you know, kind of thing, then you're going to spend a lot of time sanding off and getting it smooth again, you know, and just wasting CA glue. All right, that ought to be pretty good, I think. I'm gonna wipe it off. Hit it with some more denatured alcohol. see what the surface looks like here. I can't really see any pinholes specifically. This may blow out the camera, but I need to turn this thing up. Really get in there and look. Yeah, like I said, I don't see any, but you know, I didn't see any on the last one either. So let's just go with our CA finish here. So first thing, a lot of times I like to just hit it with the super thin Starbond, just in case there are some little cracks or anything like that in the blank. It may seep down into, you know, some pinholes possibly. So I'll just douse it for the first actually I have to apply it straight to the blank. And then just kind of wipe it in and walk away. I want it to kind of soak in any place that it may need it. This is totally optional. Don't really need to do that. Sometimes I'll do that. And then let that cure on its own. Like, you know, fully like dry. One thing I do want to mention, I used black painted tubes in these. If I was using brass, there are areas in these blanks where you could see the brass showing through. So just want to make sure you guys know that. Definitely one of those cases where you're going to want to use. You can either paint the inside of the blank itself or paint the tube. In this case, I think painted tubes are most likely going to be plenty. But if you wanted to absolutely not see any, you know, glue splotches or anything, then paint the inside of the blank. All right, so for me, for finishing, so you know, I use a few different CA glues. I use the thick Starbond as well as the super fast thin to glue my tubes in. All right, so I have a video that shows you how I do the gluing tubes in for mixed material blanks, like resin blanks. I'll use thick to kind of fill large holes sometimes. I use the thin. This is like the duct tape for pen turners, because like I'll use this to kind of, you know, fill any cracks or anything like that, or like absorb into wood or something like that. I use this for a lot of different stuff, the super thin. And then for finishes though, I like this the best. It's just I get the best results. I think it looks the best personally. But mostly it's just because I like the viscosity and I like the working time. So Mercury Thin Flex is what I use typically. If I have to fill a ton of like pits, like big chunks and things like that, then a lot of times I'll either try to apply like a medium. I have the Mercury Medium Flex, or I'll just goop on the thick. Use a gloved finger and try and like trowel it into these holes and stuff. It gets pretty tedious trying to fill a bunch of holes. I'm not very good at it, to be honest. But I would do things differently. So you can see that I got the bushings on still. And I apply very thin coats, so I'm not globbing it all over the place. But if I'm trying to fill holes in a blank, part of the thing is the paper towel is going to absorb some of that CA glue, so I'm not really getting a ton on, you know, across the blank and the bushings. If I use a glove and smear around, you know, thick globs of it, you're going to glue your blank to the bushings for sure. And in that case, you may want to go with one of the plastic bushings that you can use. Doesn't really work for the between center, the TBC setups. You might want to get out a mandrel and go that way, but for me, all I do is I'm just going to apply a little bit to my paper towel, and then just apply it really quick. Get on, get off. I cut off the end of that piece of paper that I used. That's not what I'm showing you. And then you always want to use the accelerator with mercury, with the thin flex. That's a finish, and it's meant to be used with this accelerator. So I let it kind of think about what it's done for a little bit, and then hit it about 6 times. And that's the process. And I'll apply about 6 or 8 coats. I'm just going for thin coats, trying to get it on as smooth as possible. And what I'm doing is just making sure that it's not sticky anywhere, that it's you know, cured or whatever. Put on the next coat. Yeah, I like the mercury accelerator for anything. It's a little bit less, I just, the only way to explain it is it's less aggressive. It doesn't seem to, I don't know. I don't know what's in this stuff, but it just doesn't seem like it really forcefully, you know, quickly makes things like go crazy. I don't know. So it works with any CA glue. Since you got to use it with mercury, if you're using mercury thin flex, or even the medium, either of the flex, thin or medium flex. Thin flex. The flex ones are made, they're like made to be like a finish like this. They also have a medium. If you're one of the people that likes to use medium, they also have a medium flex. But again, you want to use the accelerator for sure with that. It's made to be accelerated, let's say. I already spray this? I'm not sure. We'll do it again. Give it one more coat just for the heck of it. I think I'm already at 8, but why not? Okay, and then I'll take some 400 grit. I would recommend, for best results, I would probably walk away from this for like, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes. It's just going to be a little bit harder and it'll polish up a little bit better. I don't want to wait during the stream, you know, and it'll work if you're in a hurry. There's nothing wrong with, you know, going ahead. But you can kind of feel, you know, like I can feel this is a little bit on the softer side right now. So, you know, when you're sanding stuff, the harder that it is, the more cured, let's say, the better off you're going to be. So not a bad idea to just kind of walk away from it for a little bit, let it harden. Not even a bad idea to walk away and come back the next day, you know, if you wanted. if it's not that big of a deal for you. So, but you will get the best results waiting a little bit, letting it fully cure. Or you don't even need to really let it fully cure. It's just giving it some time to cure is going to be better than just doing what I'm doing here. Kind of rushing into it a little bit. And I'm sanding pretty soft. I'm using very light pressure. Because all I want to do is just get this surface flat. There's going to be some, little ridges and imperfections. There's just no way, unless you like spray finish something in a spray booth, you're not going to get it on perfectly smooth. So I'm just knocking down any high spots on that finish with the 400 grit very lightly, so I dropped the paper. And then we're going to move on to our 750 grit, the wet sanding steps. So we can turn off the air filters and things. Get our ShamWow back out, ShamWow. Yeah, we'll get you back in there. We're wrapping up here soon. So back to our wet sanding steps here. I think I might have forgotten to wipe that off, so I'm just gonna kind of do that. We'll use a little bit of water to kind of wipe off that 400 grit, if there is any. And we'll switch back over here to our 750 grit. I know. Yeah, it gets a little annoying with all the air filters and stuff, but I'll tell you what, man, that as much as I don't love listening to dust collectors and stuff, it's so much nicer when you got these things running. I'm still blown away at how good the dust collector does, and this is not particularly the greatest cone. It's not directed in like a small, I don't know. I set this up and kind of figured, this is going to cost me a lot to run duct across the shop to the lathe, but maybe I'll collect some dust, and it's been doing really good. And then that Stratus air filter, I'm still blown away by it. I really love that thing. So if you're in the market for an air filter for your workshop, highly recommend checking out my video on the Stratus. It's a different animal, a little bit different animal, pretty cool design. Might be kind of the perfect solution. It was the perfect solution for my shop. So I got a video on that, and I got affiliate links too if you decide that it's the air filter for you. I get a referral bonus if you buy one, but use my link to get to the website to check out. So make sure to check out that video. Just search for Stratus on my channel. I mean, realistically, my biggest thing was I really wanted to share with people because there's just not a lot of talk about these things. And I think that it's got some features that make it more appealing than some of the other ones that are out there. One of the big ones is you don't have to mount it to the ceiling or anything. You just take it out of the box, plug it in, and it works. Get it up close to your tools. So let me give you guys a shot of this. If you haven't seen it, most of you guys have. You're probably sick of me talking about it, but there it is. Stratus air filter. It's just a nice floor standing thing. You can just get it right up close to your tool. Pretty cool stuff. So like I said, I got a video that kind of covers, it's like features and all that kind of good stuff. Things that I liked about it. And those links there's a link down in the description of this video to the website if you want to look at their website and learn more about it there. But check out the video I did. Kind of show you what my thoughts were about it. Okay, I think that's good. Should be good enough. Switch over to our plastic polish. Yeah, so there's lots of different strategies on how you can what you can first thing I want to do. So, you know, I was applying that CA finish, and there probably is a thin layer of CA glue connecting, you know, the blank to the bushings. And so this is how I get that off of there, get them off of there. I'm gonna actually kind of pop that like that. I'm gonna take this off the lathe. First, I'm just gonna see if they come off. So they're kind of a little bit stuck, right? They're not coming out. So I just tap them a little bit and they pop right out. Oops, I dropped that one. But the problem is, because I've kind of tapped that and it just kind of cracked the edge of, you know, where the CA was kind of bridging that gap between the bushing and the blank. This is the only reason I have a mandrel in my shop at this point. So I got a piece of sandpaper on there, and I'm just sanding off any extra bits that may be hanging over that edge of this blank of CA glue kind of hanging off. There's little shards. And the thing is, this is crucial, because if you don't do that, when you go to assemble your pen, you're going to crack your finish, because the component piece is going to butt up against that shard and then crack your finish. So you want to take all that stuff off, get it nice and squared up again, then you don't have to worry about it. So I do that, and then if you really want to, you can drop these guys in a little bit of acetone. I just use my finger just to kind of make sure there's no CA chunks hanging off of there again. Oh man, my stomach is growling. It's lunchtime. All right, so I'm just making sure there's nothing kind of, you know, when I put this back on, that could possibly cause an issue. And we'll just put this right back up there. I don't know if you can see that. Get it mounted again. All right, and then on to our plastic polish. Magic juice. The juice is loose. Need some more little paper towels here. Okay, step one. Nice, yeah. I'm hoping that was my thing. Like, there's not that many people that seem to know about the Stratus. So when I found it, the first thing I did was call the company and say, hey, I'd like to kind of share this. So we kind of worked out a little bit of a deal. They sent me the Stratus to have, you know, kind of also for doing a video. It was perfect for me because I was doing it. I was sharing it either way. And I was like, hey, if you guys, does this sound like a deal to you? You know, can we work something out? I'd love to share this thing. I think it's a great idea. And they were very awesome. I ended up talking to the president of the Axiom Tool Group, Todd. He was really awesome. One of the interesting things about the Stratus is, so Axiom Tool Group, they make CNC machines. Like, that's what they do. And Todd, the guy that, you know, the president, he was saying that before they got into making CNCs, he actually ran kind of like a woodcraft type of store. I forget the name of it. I think it might have been Woodworker Supply, maybe. I think he's over in the Ohio area. And so he used to, you know, sell woodworking equipment, And the Stratus idea was born from him kind of like selling people these filters and kind of being like, I don't really like these. Because the problem with the ones that hang in the ceiling is it's pulling the fine particles of dust up into the air, like past your face. And so, and you know, they're stationary somewhere in your shop, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's anywhere near where you're making dust. So there's a couple of like little issues that you have with these ceiling hung ones. The nice thing is they're you know, a lot of times they're not on the floor. Like that, I think that's the whole point of why they became popular, is you don't necessarily have floor space in some cases. And the typical air filter certainly doesn't work floor standing or being mobile. So that's why I like the Stratus. It's like kind of a pretty small footprint. You can get it right up close to the tool. But anyway, so Todd didn't really like the fact that he didn't like what was on the market for these air filters, and didn't really like selling people these things, that he identified some weaknesses to the design. So he just came up with, he designed this thing himself to kind of solve that problem. So it's kind of a cool story. And it was the same issue I had. I mean, when I installed my dust collection system, so I have an Oneida dust, like the super dust gorilla thing, Cyclone, and then, you know, the full ductwork. I was on the phone with Oneida, the lady over there. We were talking about laying, you know, the ductwork layout, and I had mentioned that I need to, like, the ductwork is going to run right through where I have my air filter, because I used to have one of those ceiling hung air filters, one of the jet ones, and I was like, I'm going to have to move my air filter, and she was kind of like, we don't really recommend that you have those ceiling hung ones, specifically for those reasons where it's pulling dust up into the air and all that. But I had to take it down, and I really didn't want to have to remount it. I have 18-foot ceilings, and it sucked. It sucked taking it down. So putting it up was no fun either at all, alone. So I was like, there's got to be an air filter thing that like sits on the floor. And so I ended up finding Stratus, and I was like, perfect. I don't have to mount it. It does what I want. And the other nice thing about the Stratus is it has a charcoal air filter, like a charcoal filter, carbon, that will help reduce fumes in your shop too. So it could be useful for people that are in kind of confined spaces that you can't get a lot of good airflow, and you're using like resins, you know, resin casting stuff possibly. The resin 3D printers, that's actually what because I specifically asked them to send me one of those filters. So it helps cut down the fumes for resin 3D printing in my shop. Now it's not gonna, you're gonna still want to wear all the PPE, you know, a mask and all that stuff while you're working with it. But what it does is it'll circulate that air and filter out the fumes after the fact. So it'll reduce that lingering smell in the shop. So I always want to make sure that people understand that it is not instead of wearing your mask when you're working with, you know, epoxies and things like that have volatile organic chemicals, VOCs and whatever in them. But, you know, it also works for like things like wood burning, or like anything that's going to cause fumes in your shop. That charcoal filter will help cut that down quicker. It's kind of an interesting filter. It has a lot of interesting features that you don't find on other filters. All right, you guys, are you ready to see on step 6? Who's ready for this? Whew, that's shiny. Okay. Once again, let's try and get you guys in here. I think if you are going to make one of these epoxy floor chip blanks and you're looking for the best finish, I would probably go with a CA finish, because everything's going to be nice and even. You don't have to worry if there are pinholes or not, and it's going to give you some really great gloss. So I think I might even recommend just, you know what, if you're going to do it, just go for the CA finish, because this looks fabulous. I think that they would look, like I said, it's just that even sheen, where even with the other one, there's just a slight, there's a slight difference between the chips. It just, I mean, ever so slight, but I mean, there's just a slight difference between the gloss, between the chips and the resin. Whereas this thing has just an even gloss across it. It looks like it's got this like candy layer on the top of it, you know? So we were talking about, you know, why would you put a CA finish on resin? And typically it just has to do with the fact that if you have multiple things going on, you know, different materials, typically it's going to be the best way to go. It's just your best bet, I think. So I may only have one Sierra kit. So I'm definitely going to assemble this one. Let me get things kind of set up over here for assembly. Let me see what we got going on with pen kits. Oh, maybe I got a couple. I got a chrome one. Garage, that would be cool. Here's a gunmetal one. Wish I had a chrome one. Oh, there we go. Nope, that's major pen kit. Ooh. Ooh, well, that's the Grande. I think I'm going to go with a Gatsby Zephyr. That's a good one. I don't know. Let's see what the Sierra Nomad looks like for the other one. All right, so we're set up over here. So I got a Sierra Nomad. That's the one with the, and this may be a little bit too much again, but I don't know. It kind of has like the carbon fiber look. So I think let's try that with the Funfetti crazy one. And then let's try this Gatsby for the black and orange. Oh shoot, I don't know if I have all the parts. May not have all the parts. I think I do. Let me see what, I might have had to confiscate some parts. Definitely don't have an ink in here. It's been a while since I put one of these Gatsbys together. Lots of parts going on here. So hold on real quick, just bear with me. That goes in there, that goes there. This goes on the front. The nib. Okay, I think I got all the parts. Don't have an ink, but that's okay. I can find an ink. And I know I have all the parts for that. Okay, so let's go get our pens, and I'll show you a little bit of a close-up view here. Definitely calling this Funfetti. So they're both pretty glossy, but you know, this one's just more even. It just kind of has that shine. It feels like there's like this gloss on top of everything, whereas this one, although it is pretty shiny, it's a little bit, I don't know. You can just kind of see the difference between where that glare, the shine kind of bounces off on the surface of this one, whereas this one kind of hits, you know, down to the, I don't know, it's like above the stuff, where this one kind of deflects differently when it hits the chips. both look fine. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with the black and orange one, but I think that this one, the Funfetti, this with the CA finish, just looks a little bit better in person to me. So let me find an ink somewhere. Okay, found an ink. So what do you have to do? Which ones do we have to press in? All right, so we're going to press the tip coupler. That's what they call it. Tip coupler. Let's get things kind of closer here. That open. Okay. So I think on this one we actually have to press 2 parts in, which is a little bit different than your Sierras. Gatsby's a little bit complicated, but so the first thing we're going to press in is the tip coupler. Let me make sure that I have the camera kind of. I'm gonna add a little bit of light. Let's see here. What else can I do? Where is that other light that I have? All right, well, let's see if we can do it like this. That's a little bit better, I think. All right. Come on. Go in straight. There we go. Whew, that was tight. Okay, so we got that side. And I think you have to press this one in as well, which is a little bit different than your typical Sierra. Oh, actually, I got to cover that. Well, there's so many. Yeah, I forgot to cover some stuff. So I'm going to try and get this. I don't know if I can get this apart so easy. We're going to push forward. I forgot to cover the blemishes. At this point, I'd have to take everything apart, so I don't want to worry about that. Then you twist that thing in there. Then you can just push this thing on, the back part. Then we drop our ink in there. There we go. That's pretty nice looking. What do you guys think of that? Still got all those little blemishes though. That kind of sucks. Okay, so we got that one done. This one's going to look a lot nicer. Oh, and thank you, Mark, for the super chat. I just saw that. I just lost a part. Where the heck did that go? Oh, that's no fun. Gotta blow this off real quick. Landed in the dust underneath the table. All right, so we got that. We got that. This has a little thing on the nib. Like there. Okay. So we've got, let's see here. The whole nib section just gets pressed. You can just push in by hand. So I'm just going to assemble that. And this is the Sierra Nomad. I got this at Turner's Warehouse. I don't know where I got that Gatsby. I'm not sure if they carry that at Turner's. Kind of like that. Ooh. I think we're going to go like this. So again, this is the only part that you really need to press on the Sierra kits. This is the back piece, which makes assembly a breeze. And then you just push these two pieces together. Let's see, we got to get them lined up a little bit. There we go, push it together. I'll check the twist, but yeah, wow. I like that one. Definitely digging the fluorescent chips. What do you guys think? Yeah, kind of walnut burl, yeah. Kind of interesting. It looks good. I'm just, just a little disappointed that we had those pinholes, which the funny thing is I didn't get any of that on the blue and blue white, the first one that we did. I don't think there was anything like, this is the first one. Maybe there are a few little pinholes. I don't know. Because we didn't do a CA finish on this one either. It has white in it though, so it may not really have shown up, being darker. Yeah, the color, I know, I'm telling you. I know, I love this craziness. It might have looked better. Sometimes the carbon fiber thing gets a little crazy when you got a lot of craziness going on. Both of these, I think it's too much with the blue one. It just, there's so much going on. I think that just having like the Gatsby might be a little bit where it's just black or just silver or something like that might look a little better on these, where the colors are a little bit more taking over, I don't know. The nice thing is these are easy to disassemble. It's just one piece that you got to pop out. I'm kind of running out of kits at this point, so I need to place an order with Turner's Warehouse and get some more Sierras. Psychedelic Groovy-licious, yeah, heck yeah. Sweet. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this all come together. Again, if you want to make some of the epoxy chip blanks, I have a link to the fluorescent neon ones on Amazon, so it's down in the show notes below. And I put a bunch of links to all the turning tools and things that I used today. Well, not every single thing possible, but most of the typical things at least. Let's see here. What did I put links to? I just want to double check. Yeah, so we got the floor chips, the Stratus air filter if you want to check that out. Oh, and don't forget the Micro Starlight and Starlight glitter are on sale for 20% off. And like basically tomorrow's the last day. So I'm just, for anybody that isn't familiar necessarily with the glitters. So you got, well, I forgot to fill this, but there's chunky, kind of big chunky ones. These things are awesome for like Aurora type effects and things like that. And then there's Micro Starlight. These are like super fine specs, and they're awesome for all kinds of different things. Just to add a little bit of sparkle. Kind of looks like you could use it like as like snow globe looking kind of stuff, or I like to just dump a ton in with black and then it looks like space. You can get all kinds of different effects. So anyway, that stuff's 20% off on my website. You got to enter Glitter Mom, the code Glitter Mom, kind of did it for Mother's Day when you check out. So 20% off on that stuff. And then let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, the Easy Wood tools and the TBC setup stuff that you need and all that kind of stuff are linked below. And then if you see something that you are like, oh, what is that tool that you're using? I also have a tools I use page, and we're just about, it isn't, the new pages aren't up yet, but that section on my website is going to be a lot easier to navigate. Right now it's like a big long list of different links, just separated by headings. We're going to be changing it to where there's like a picture, and so like it'll be like turning tools and then resin casting stuff and wood stabilizing. So there's like categories, and then you can just go to those individual pages to find the type of tool that you were looking for. And then if all else fails, if you still don't see what you need, just shoot me an email. Just use the contact form on my website, and I'll find a link to whatever it is that I use if you have questions about that. I try to add stuff whenever I think about it, but I can't add every single tool on the planet that I have. I always forget a few. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this come together. I enjoyed making them. So again, next week, we're not doing live streams. I'm going to try and get some videos done during those days. So give me some time to actually get some of the videos that I got a bunch of them that are planned. Get those things done. So I will see you guys on the following week. We got some pretty cool stuff. I got a few different fun things planned for upcoming streams. So you want to definitely tune in. And then don't forget, tomorrow there's going to be a video, one of the live stream replays that's scrunched down of the Lifesaver stopper blanks. So I think it's a pretty good video, so make sure to watch that if you get a chance tomorrow. And for all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a great day tomorrow. And I think that's about it, guys. So I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Get in the shop and make something fun. And celebrate Mom's Day tomorrow with everybody. And I will see you guys on the next stream. Have a good night, guys.